wilds of Clinic Land. Closest, it actually came in as 667 because the stupid service wouldn't do it right for her. But we know it's $6.66. Thanks, Mexi girl. Cool shout out indeed. I hope Clinic Day is a good day.
I have a shout out as well. SSW coming through with a super chat saying, "Thank you, Jeff Markley of Oregon, West Coast." SSW loves West Coast
yeah.
chat. Thank you so much. We do have questions coming in. Although this conversation, it was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry to sideline it. Let's get back to the news.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing it up.
I love these types of conversations because they highlight the fundamental differences of between two cultures, between right and wrong, between black and white.
That's why I made the show.
Exactly. And yeah, that's amazing. And it goes against that narrative, that propaganda that Russia is trying to push, the both sidism, we don't know who's right, who's wrong. Should we still be friends with Russia? Should we support Ukraine? Oh, it's so expensive. The price of eggs, this kind of puts it in very clear terms.
Yeah, and it points out the differences in the culture, which I think is, really important, that Ukraine is not Russia. Ukraine was colonized by Russia, and there's the after effect of that, but they're distinctly different, in their character and culture and society. So all the more reason why we need to keep pointing that out. But yeah, I'm sure, Slavi, you said you had questions.
Yes, I do. There's a lot of questions coming through. But before we get into the questions, while we're on this comedy note, there is one funny news from this past week. That EU's 19th sanctions package that hit bans exports of toilets, bidets, and flush tanks to Russia. I guess it's good thing that all those whores stole toilets when they invaded, because they're not going to get any more of European toilets. But at the same time, the whole place, most of it is an outhouse, so they don't really need toilets. It's just one big shithole.
I foresee lots of major offenses from the Russians to seize new territory so they can continue looting toilets.
Oh, that's funny. Let's just have it one more time.
Then Putin actually commented on this. He said, he said, cancel toilets and they'll need Russian ones.
They just strike where it really hurts.
Yeah.
The evil West.
Yeah. I mean, selling toilets when your people are stuck in the 1800s? No thanks to the outhouses.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Johnny had a good idea here. The Car for Ukraine fundraiser. If I'll bring it up here, but you will notice that all right, let me show it. Let me show it here. Campaigns. Do I have to click or something? What's going on? There we go. The autumn truck fund is full.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. Look at that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Very much so. So, I mean, we can, donations are still more than welcome. We have the link. We'll get it in the live chat for you. If you're watching on the vertical feed, well, there isn't a live chat. Sorry, we didn't have moderators sorted or anything, but we'll turn it on for next time. And, yeah, great news indeed. But yeah, the more the merrier.
Are awesome.
Yeah, the more the merrier too in that fund, because extra money means that there's extra funds to help over-equip some of the trucks, maybe send a few more off to be rocket launchers and stuff, because that costs extra cash, right? So yeah, more the merrier, that's for damn sure. But yeah, check it out, 114,000 raised this time around. Well done, everybody. Oh Lord, thunder and jeebus. That's really cool. Yeah,
it's fantastic news.
Yeah.
The questions are coming through. We have a question from Kristen McCall asking, what is the latest on the Gripens? Do we know if any pilots have been training or a final number?
Well, the Swedish Minister of Defense said that it's going to take 3 years, and they're trying to deliver 150 units. He said it's not like this week or anything. So at this point, it's kind of like a flamingo. It's a very helpful information tactic. It fights the Russian propaganda that Europe is tired of Ukraine. Yeah, it's a good thing, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
They're building brand new ones for Ukraine, brand new Gripens. And this is for the future. This is like 10 years from now, we'll see Ukraine probably, hopefully sooner, flying them. So this, I would like to say, it's not really for this war. It's more of the protection of Ukrainian skies from any future Russian aggression.
Yeah.
But they are, from my understanding, and maybe Commander, I don't know if you have further insight into this, but like the military guys that I talk to say, actually, the Gripen is a fantastic platform, and it's really on par with, if not an F-22, somewhere between an F-16 and an F-22. It's not quite fifth generation fighter, but it's more than a fourth generation.
I'd call it a 4.5. Yeah, it's not quite into fifth generation with all the stealth and everything that goes with that, but it's close to it. It has stealth features, but it's not pure stealthy, if you will. But there are other aspects that go into it. But yeah, it's a very significant advance over, say, the F-16s that they're operating right now. But it's going to be a long time before you see significant numbers of Gripens being flown by Ukrainian Air Force. The training pipeline for something like that is probably realistically about 2 years.
I have Swedish friends who talk about these Gripens like it's pride and joy. And they explained to me that why Gripens are so effective and why Ukrainians want them even more so is because they don't need a long runway to take off. It's really quick with Gripens, whereas with
the Swedes designed a lot of their aircraft to be able to operate literally off of sections of highway rather than prepared airfields, because their assumption was that if they were attacked by the potential primary foe, Russia, that they would destroy any regular airfields with bombing runs and missile strikes early in any conflict. So being able to operate aircraft from highways was a design feature they built into it, the same kind of thing that you see with the South Koreans and their aircraft.
Darn good thinking.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Sweden has been wanting to give the Gripens since even the talk of F-16s started giving F-16s to Ukraine. There's a whole lot of conversation between what should, I guess, we get, which would give Ukraine around training, but Sweden got blocked by US and
probably Hungary as well.
NATO, yeah. For not, can't do it up until now, finally. But there was a lot of conversation about
in all of these issues that are happening. there is a significant pushback from Russian agents and Russian sympathizers all around Europe and, of course, in the United States. Europe has to fight and deal with just ruthless attacks by Russian misinformation, Russian paid agents in their governments. So all of these things, they receive all kinds of pushback, and it's good that it's finally happening. But there's a problem, Commander Macmillan. You said that it's not fully stealthy. Is this good enough to counter those donkeys that Russia is deploying?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I think it's important to note that I want to put this in perspective. It's not just Ukraine getting access to this. You see a number of European countries that are either lining up to buy the Gripen or the Eurofighter Typhoon, as opposed to F-22s or F-35s. And that's all because of Trump's posturing, his idiotic tariff wars, etc. And basically, Europe has looked at it and said, we can't trust you guys anymore. We have to look to ourselves for our own defense.
Well, look at the Storm Shadow. I mean, one of the reasons why the Brits have always kind of have gone along with this kind of limitation on the range of the Storm Shadow is because of pressure from Washington, because there are components in the Storm Shadow cruise missile that are American. And so the U.S. has been able to exert undue pressure on the Brits, and increasingly, I think the Europeans are getting to a place where they're like, we can't trust the Americans because they will play games with their support and their integration of the weapon systems that the Americans provide to their NATO partners can be switched off because and that's you're basically cutting them off at the knees. So I think you're right, Commander. I think increasingly Europeans are going to be like, we can't rely on the Americans and the weapon systems they provide to us. So we're going to have to bump up our own, military industrial complex, and the forefront of that is going to be Ukraine. So even if America does, further withdraw from European military cooperation, the guys that are most likely to fill in the gap are going to be the Ukrainians, oddly enough. I mean, the Germans will be in there, the Brits will be in there, and all the rest of them. But certainly when it comes to drones and other things, they're going to be at the forefront, and America is not going to be able to sell its weapons as easily as it used to. So another example of just short-sightedness of the Trump administration.
And also part of that.
How can you say that? They're all geniuses.
And also part of that limiting factor that the Storm Shadow has and other rockets have was the agreement that was signed between many different countries, including Russia, back in the 90s and 2000s. I'm not actually sure of the date, but it was in those days, there was agreement. It was primarily signed between United States and Russia that the two countries will not develop rockets in a range between 500 kilometers and 5,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
So we were able to develop rockets up to 500 kilometers and over 5,000 kilometers. But anywhere between 500 and 5,000, we signed that we're not going to do. And when Obama was in office, United States intelligence showed that Russia was actually developing those rockets, even though they signed an agreement. Can you believe that Russia signed an agreement and they did not honor it?
Having agreements and Russia in the same sentence is just...
Yeah.
Is that the SALT Treaty? Which treaty was that? Because I remember.
I'm sorry, I don't exactly remember. And basically, Obama was the president that took United States out of it because it was no longer relevant because Russia
Yeah, it was
just,
the SALT Treaty
Yeah.
signed in 1987.
Oh, 87.
Yeah.
Wow. See?
Yeah.
And as soon as Obama pulled out, Russia started spreading this talking point. United States is not honoring its agreements. It's exiting any agreement it wants. United States cannot be trusted. And basically, they were just trying to push this narrative into anybody who would listen. And actually, many countries do listen. For example, African countries, anywhere where we used to have USAID, so we could push back on any of these narratives. Now, all those voices are unopposed from Russia and China, saying that evil United States is unilaterally exiting agreements.
Yeah.
Whenever Russia accuses anyone of anything, it's an admission of what they're doing themselves. Always.
True every time, without fail.
And you know, and not to move away from the military discussion we're having, but also in terms of when we talk about the rule of law, the Russians will jump up and down and scream about international law, but they don't actually believe in the concept of the rule of law, because all you have to do is look internally, domestically within Russia, where their court system is really only used to, as a political tool or as a power tool to get dominance from one oligarch over another, or for an oligarch to kind of express control over somebody smaller. I mean, you just watch the movie Leviathan, which I think was it 97 that came out, that movie, Russian movie, where it's law is not, they will jump up and down and scream about infractions of the Americans in international law, but only in terms as a club that they can use, a weapon that they can use on the global stage. They don't genuinely believe in the concept of the rule of law. It's one of the reasons they got kicked out of the G8. Putin screams about how disrespectful it was that Russia was expelled from the G8. I remember covering that period of time, and when I spoke to diplomats and people that were involved in this entire thing, was that what happened was they brought the Russians into the G8, let them join the G7, and then when the Russians joined in, they were like, we all know that this is just an excuse for us to kind of like do power brokering,
right? And
we're all going to get rich. And actually, the rest of the G7, and again, I remember this when I was covering this. The rest of the G7 was like, no, actually, we do have like rules of order, and there are processes, there are there are rules, and you can argue that the rules are only there to kind of like hide the hypocrisy, but nevertheless, there are rules. There are the way things are done, and Moscow came into the G7, joined as the G8, and basically just wanted to rob the house, because they don't believe in order. They don't believe in law or structure. They believe in power, just power.
Might makes right.
Yeah. And so that's why they got kicked out of the G8. It wasn't because they were like the rest of the countries were disrespecting them. It was like, hey, Russia, you need to learn how to play by the rules before you can join this group. And so, it's just another example of them understanding very well the way things are done in the West, and then rejecting them because that's ultimately not how they want to play.
Right.
They want to play by, as you say, Commander, might makes right. the big fish eats the smaller fish, and that's all there is to it. It's all binary. It's all null sum.
Yeah.
You look at, for example, after the wall came down and the Eastern European nations all started kind of trying to flock into NATO because they wanted to separate themselves and defend themselves from having the Russians go back in against them. And there were all these hurdles, and it was very difficult for them to meet the requirements to join NATO, because it's not just you use an 82 millimeter mortar as opposed to an 81 millimeter mortar from NATO. It was much more subtle. It was the rank structure. It was how you had operations. And they at least in many cases some semblance of democratic tradition prior to this. The Russians don't have that at all. They're still solidly in that authoritarian Soviet slant Bolshevik mindset. And you see that in everything they do internationally. It's all, we're in power and we're going to make you do what we want. It's not a cooperative exchange of ideas and compromises.
Yeah. It's the difference between getting a loan from the bank and the mob.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, let's not put on colored glasses. There's remnants of that here in Ukraine as well. And it's one of the biggest obstacles that they've had is transitioning from a Soviet structure, whether that's cultural or political or legal.
We have nothing like that occurring in the U.S. right now.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Ukrainians are aware of it. They're trying to make reforms, but it's a really hard thing to do, because it's deeply ingrained. But it's, if you can say, there's a reason why at the end of every episode of my show I put that slate up from Abraham Lincoln in the Speed Letter in 1855, which is basically like, we know that we have problems, but we're going to address them.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is we have to at least try to make it better. Whereas the Russians have an attitude where they're like, there's no point in trying to change. This is how it's always been and always will be. And, any kind of idea of making things better is naive and self-indulgent. So, I know what side of the aisle I'm going to be on, what side of the fence I'm going to be on. It's at least we can try and make it better.
It's very Dostoevsky. That was his, what he wrote about.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next question for the panel from Art by the AI Alchemist, asking, we know Trump isn't giving tomahawks. What's the latest on Europe's talking about them? They're still talking about it, but we're not gonna see probably ever United States gave tomahawks to Ukraine. What may happen, hopefully, is United States gets a European country to give them to Ukraine, or it's not going to be this big announcement. But I mean, they're still talking about it, trying to get a deal done. So what do you guys?
I trust the current United States administration about as far as I could throw a chunk of the East Wing.
Yeah.
I mean, a big chunk, so it's not a big throw.
I promise I'm going to keep this short, because I think actually I want to hear from Commander McMillan more about this. But I'm sorry to put you on. Chuck, you're right under the bus. Right under the bus. I think there is a distinct possibility that the Europeans will seize the Russian assets, and they will actually buy stuff from America, because Trump can sell that. Trump can be transactional, and he can say, "Look at all the money that the Europeans are giving us for our great weapons." So I think if the Europeans, and you Canucks, Dick, are at the forefront of this as well, is if they start down the road of seizing Russian frozen assets, then using those frozen assets and the liquidity there to buy weapons from the United States, I can see that as a operable chain. But that's all I'm going to say about that, and I'm going to chuck Commander right under the bus and see what he has to say.
I tend to agree with you. I think it's easier for the administration to sell buying stuff with seized money from an enemy than it is to say, well, we're taking your tax dollars to buy this stuff and then giving that stuff to the Ukrainians. And then you end up in the kind of gray zone of, well, we're selling American equipment, hushed voice, at reduced prices, unhushed voice, to the Ukrainians, which is kind of a middle ground. It's like, yeah, but if you're selling it to them at reduced prices, we're still losing money. So it's a gradation of how appetizing it is to the American electorate.
Mm.
And to add to that, I keep saying I'm going to get off my soapbox and then I get right back on it. But in addition to that, it is kind of as a NATO member state, you can pick up your Sears catalog of U.S. weapons and say, I'll have a little bit of this, I'll have a little bit of that, I'll have a little bit of this, and then once you get it, you pass it along to the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. And Trump will still, flag it like, he's done the great thing. But then everybody can still tell the MAGA crowd that, no, it's still America first.
I wanted probably a good spot to bring up Trump appointed Alexis Grinkiewicz as the NATO leader forces in Europe. And this general, he is very supportive of Ukraine, and most likely he's going to have a lot of effects of getting Ukraine what it needs to win this in terms of weapons, because he does support that in a big way. He understands what Ukraine needs to win, and Trump appointed him, so it's huge that he trusts, or Trump trusts this general. I don't know, maybe Commander Macmillan has more on this.
I think Trump admires to some extent the generals, but I don't think he entirely trusts other than a very small handful that he knows are politically reliable. In other words, loyal to his line of thinking. So if generals or admirals get in a room with him and talk about, yeah, we want to do this, we think this is a good idea, he'll listen, he's receptive to the idea. He may even act on it, providing one of his handlers doesn't come in immediately after the discussion and say, we're going to do it this way, because he tends to listen to whoever the last person who spoke on a topic is. He's everybody who's come out of the administration and written their book or done their press conference with somebody, they all say something along those lines, that he's very, very fixated on the last person to speak, because he has such a bad memory for anything that was said beforehand.
I'd like to chime in on this as well, because I think surprise, surprise. I think he sees generals as a caricature. He wants his generals to be, George C. Scott as Pat. He wants,
Yes.
kind of like this cartoon character of what a general is, who's I'm going to kick ass and I'm going to take names and he wants that guy.
Yeah.
He wants George C. Scott. He doesn't want David Petraeus. I spent time with David. I spent time with David Petraeus. I spent time with McMaster. These guys who are very, very smart generals, and they are guys who know they study Sun Tzu and the Clausewitz. I'm not a fan of Clausewitz, but yeah, I mean they study all, and not just military stuff. I mean they'll read. There was that interesting students of history, students of culture, students of strategic thinking, of all philosophy, of all colors, shapes, and sizes.
Yeah.
There was that Senate hearing. I think it may have been congressional, but where General Milley was asked about, woke culture in the military. He said, "Look, I read the Communist Manifesto because I wanted to understand that mentality.
Right.
Doesn't mean I agreed with it, but I wanted to understand my enemy. I wanted to understand a philosophy of and the way of thinking of different groups that I may one day be standing on a battle line against. And so the more I understand these things,"
which ties directly into Sun Tzu. Know the enemy and know yourself.
Exactly right. And Trump doesn't understand that. He wants George C. Scott. He wants a character. He wants a comic. He wants a character.
That's right. Not a real officer.
Yeah, Trump would be super happy if he had somebody he could call Stormin' Norman right now. That would make him happy, right?
Yeah.
Not the actual Stormin' Norman.
Exactly.
The character.
Exactly.
Of it.
Exactly. Are we questions, Slavy? Still got, I bet we're yeah. I could tell by that face.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to say I'm glad that it's not Pete Hegseth who is taking care of European security and handling all the plans and strategies, because it would end up on Telegram.
Oh God. Can you imagine?
Yeah, what Hegseth knows about strategy can be written on the world's smallest.
Even then, there's room for,
in very large
this
letters.
move actually, it shows, because United States wanted to pull out of NATO, I think back in April, and that would be terrible. But this move shows that the U.S. still cares somewhat of for European security and everything with this general. And this general, I'm looking, has very impressive credential. He's F-16 and F-22 pilot. So we know that, I think Ukraine may be getting more jets. We'll see, but he sounds very promising.
Cool.
But more questions.
Yes.
Question for all from It Wasn't Me. Can you please talk about the massive protests in Hungary? Russia seems to be losing their influence quite rapidly all over the world now.
I have not seen But from what I understand from a little bit of text that I read, that it's bigger and more impactful than you would think for a place like Hungary.
I knew that there's protests going on. I would love to hear how they've heard about the protests, because Orban controls all the media in Hungary. That's why we haven't been hearing from it.
Yeah, tightly.
Really. Also, there's going to be elections coming up, so there's a lot of Orban dealings. And we know Orban, he made Hungary the most corrupt country now in Europe. And he's taking Russian money, and he's taking European money, and then not letting Ukraine join anything or get any aid. He is the cock blocker of military and aid.
I think there's a fraying in a lot of what used to be the Warsaw Pact in Southeast Europe, where Moscow has still tried to kind of exert influence. I think we see it in Hungary. We're seeing it in even the Serbs, who have a long history connected with Moscow as a fellow Slav, as a fellow Orthodox Christian country. The ties between Serbia and Russia go way back, but the Serbians also want to be Europeans. They don't have imperial aspirations like the Russians do. And if they're going to join, and there's increasing information that like the European Union is saying, if you want to be part of the EU, you have to abandon your tacit support for Putin in Moscow. And so we see it there. I think it's a grassroots thing in Hungary. I think it's Slovakia also, where there's potentially some erosion there, even though their government has been a fly in the ointment in the EU. So yeah, I think there's a whole section of that post-Warsaw Pact, especially in the kind of that area around like Bulgaria, former Yugoslavia, Hungary, Slovakia, that stretch of Europe, which had such had been infiltrated so deeply by Moscow. I think there's a lot of people power potentially that might be growing in strength there. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, get rid of the old regime, the old ways of doing business, and adopt new ones.
Don't go backwards.
You could say Eastern Europe spring.
Not seeing Russia lose their influence, actually, because Russia in the governments, at least, Russia has their foot in every government around the world. And now there's a huge right-wing push kind of happening right now, and that is all Russia.
Yeah.
That's why I say people power.
But it's going
Slavi. It's not the body politic.
Yeah.
It's not the politicians or the media those are bought and sold for by Moscow. But I think there's people power that we're seeing emerge.
I also agree with Slavi. The thing we should focus on is not that Russia is losing this election or winning that election. What we have to understand is Russia is everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a fight to kick it out of each government. And that's what these governments are trying to do all around Europe and all around the world. The reason it's actually there are some good news about this. It's true that in Slovakia, the pro-Russian coalition got their asses handed to them. Thank God. But we just had pro-Russian coalition moving into Czech Republic, which is a bad news. We had pro-Russian coalition again losing in Moldova, but now we're going to have something else. It's happening all around the world. And the reason why we get this good news is because these countries are waking up. They are seeing the danger that Russia is presenting, and they don't want to be rolling out red carpets for international criminals, like we did over here in Alaska. They want their countries back, and it's gonna take all they've got. It's really hard to fight this fight in all these countries.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with both you, Johnny and Slavi, that institutions are absolutely still bending the knee. Have been infiltrated and are bending the knee. But I make the point that I think there is people power. It's a no kings protest kind of thing. It's not so much, the structures and the instruments and the what have you of the body politic, but it's people themselves who are saying we don't want to have anything to do with this. And I see strength in that in a number of European countries, particularly in that stretch, which lived under the Warsaw Pact and remember what it's like to live under Moscow's thumb.
And to kind of amplify that point a little bit as well, when it comes to people power, Russia is dealing with that as well, because Russia is on X, it's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, big time. We just had, I don't know if we should get into that, but I'll just touch briefly and you pull me out of that. We just had an extraordinary example of information war not corresponding with the actual war. We saw that Israel just completely won the war on the ground, but they lost the information war being largely helped by Russia, because from the first days of the conflict after the attack of October 7th, which we all saw, Russia started heavily influencing opinions of regular people on TikTok, on all of the social media. There were these heavily Russian-funded and Chinese, in a way, funded campaigns promoting
Qatar as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, but so all of these campaigns focusing heavily on promoting Hamas, basically. Palestine, it's occupied by Hamas. It doesn't have a government, was ousted from their capital. They had a democratically elected government in Ramallah, which Hamas ignored and pushed out and just said, we control the country and we're gonna kill whoever we want. And basically this was a pro-Hamas movement which completely won. 90% of all teenagers in European Union were on the side of Palestine within 3 or 4 months of this conflict. They didn't even know where Palestine is on the map.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to be very optimistic, but I have to be less optimistic, I guess. I don't want to say I don't want to say realistic, because I do want the power of the people, but it's going to take a lot more fighting before we get our power back. Russia is everywhere right now.
Yeah.
It's killing both sides, the left and the right.
Fingers and
very much so, Slavi. I just want to try something here, guys. I got a gag idea here that I think could work really good. So let me just put the shit gibbon up on the screen quick, but don't worry, you'll see why.
Loser! You're a loser!
Yeah, it actually worked out okay. It pointed right at him. I wasn't sure if it was going to work there. Couple of shout outs I wanted to do. We got Paul Gilbert came in and redid his membership there. So huge thanks, Paul. Thank you very much. And then Carl Jacobson came in with a shout in the live chat there. 15 months, wowzers. And that goes right in step with his direct donation in through PayPal, which was Carl Jacobson, 15 months, $15. Well, it's US $15, and it says at the end, you know my name. Very cool, Carl. Thank you very much. Slavi, anything to do over your way?
I do have a super chat coming in from Pepper Nation. Thank you so much. Saying, I heard another commentator recently describe NATO General Mark Rutte as a Trump whisperer. He talks to Trump after Putin in order to bring him back. Yes, Mark Rutte, the previous time that he came to, or they talked with Trump, he called him daddy. And Trump really enjoyed that. That was a huge, I mean.
He called him daddy? Yeah. Hold on, but.
Fuck is wrong with you?
If you know how to manipulate him, it's hilarious. I mean, Zelensky has figured out how to play Trump like a fiddle. And it's just great watching when people pull it off, because Trump is so full of himself and so full of bluster. You know, he can't imagine that he's being played, but he is.
And Rutte was famous in his prior roles, on the diplomatic stage in Europe, as being someone who was a very good. He wasn't described as a manipulator, but he was very, very well respected as somebody who could maneuver, shall we say, parties to find common ground. So, he is top notch. He is top notch, Mark Rutte, and Zelensky, of course, as well. But then we have to contend with Lavrov, who's no slouch either.
It's very funny to watch Russian reaction to all of this, because Russia has prided itself on figuring Trump out and finding out how to deal with him. And it was correct. It's true that they figured Trump out, and they were they are still very efficient. But the response to these Zelensky things that Zelensky did and Rutte did, Russia is squirming, and they doing damage control right away. And it's very obvious, and it's kind of fun to see from the sidelines how they immediately send Lavrov to talk. Of course, they cannot send him to talk directly to Trump. And the only person they can talk right now is Mark Rubio, which is, in my opinion, it's the best person right now. He used to have integrity. Mark Rubio used to be a good guy. So I believe there's something deep inside of him, still human. So I still think he's the best guy to listen to Lavrov doing damage control after successful talks with Zelensky or Mark Rutte.
Yeah.
I did see an article, I forget where it was published, but it was talking about how this turnaround on Ukraine, Trump is turning around on Ukraine, is because of Marco Rubio. This is his doing, and it's interesting. I wish I had prepped it for this, but it's out there. I want to say Politico or CNN, but I'm not sure. I don't remember. But so I wouldn't, I mean, he is in this administration the only actual politician, but I wouldn't hate on him just so much. He may say, things that Russia wants him to say, but I don't think Russia has such a strong hold on Marco Rubio. And
I think his international view is more classic, old-style Republican of, the world is seen in the context of the two superpowers, maybe three if you want to include China, but they're facing off against each other. So Russia is, in his mind, still the great enemy.
That's a correct view.
I do think Zelensky could say a couple of things more that would probably get Trump's panties really wet. And it's to say that, well, Biden never let us deep strike inside Russia, you could that would. I mean,
That would
that's a part to play.
Stupid Biden. What about that Biden, eh? Never strike within Russia. It's a Zelensky stand-up, you know.
I mean, it's a strong, really strong card to play. So
very much.
But I do have another super chat from They Exist. This one's for Phil. If Phil paints beard to be a trident.
Maybe we'll make a fundraising goal.
That would be great. We could do a 2-hour stream for a fundraiser. We'll set a goal, and if we get there, just do some temporary dye thing and give yourself a trident.
Yeah, a little dye down the middle there, and these can be the sides of the trident.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So somebody's typing in the comments, "How dare you appropriate someone else's culture?"
As long as it's not Russians appropriating Ukrainian cultures, I think for the civilized Western world, Ukrainians want the world to know our story and our culture and our history.
Yes.
So we don't mind being appropriated.
I don't think Phil could appropriate Russian culture because I believe that you don't really have a choice in these things. Do you guys believe in the saying that aesthetics precedes being?
I would say for the average person, yes, that's probably correct.
I truly believe in that saying, and this war made it so apparent and so loud because remember when that amazing display we had at the Pentagon when Pete Hegseth was trying to throw kind of like a Soviet-style disgusting display, and they were proud of it. Pete Hegseth is enamored with Russian aesthetic, and to me, it's a vomit-inducing thing. And that's what separates us. If it rubs you the wrong way on an aesthetic level, that's a very good indication that you're not on this side of the aisle.
I find it funny you just said that because I always call him Marco rubbed me the wrong way, yo. So
and I really enjoyed when we talked about this with Commander Macmillan and at that time when it was happening, because that was the turning point. That's the dividing line that people will decide, I will not go there. I will not cross into that line. You are either going to choose the Russian aesthetic, the parades, the golden ballrooms, the disgusting Russian ties with the white, red, and blue that Pete Hegseth was wearing, or you're going to go for a trident in a beard, and you cannot go both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've lived in Russia and I've lived in Ukraine, and I can see the very, very distinct differences. And you're right, there's an aesthetic and a way of life in Russia that is distinctly different than Ukraine. So
yeah. Just looking at the time here, looks like we got 8 minutes or something. So get a couple of more questions in, do any shout outs, and yeah.
We do have one more question, surprisingly, left.
Let's finish strong. Let's have good 8 minutes.
Yeah.
The best 8 minutes.
This is a question for Commander Macmillan. Why do we possibly need a U.S. carrier group in Central South America? I hear rumors now of Saudi ships joining.
2 words: Epstein files.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about Saudi ships, and honestly, the Saudis don't have that big of a navy, so it wouldn't be more than something token, like one or two of their
Are we
ships.
preparing to go to war with Venezuela?
I
Like,
think that there
States.
are serious discussions ongoing in the administration about doing something like that, because they are desperate to get some big distraction which will lock the media and public opinion on that, so that we'll all forget about the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Because right now it's very clear that that is terrifying them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Johnson is doing everything he can to avoid reconvening Congress to actually talk about doing something about getting a budget bill passed, because he knows one of the conditions is going to be having to release the Epstein files. And they are terrified that if that comes out, that they're going to lose a lot of their base when it becomes obvious that the Orange God King is a pedophile.
Yeah. There's no way getting around when somebody is proven to be a sick fuck, they are.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, the MAGAs could easily overlook, you know, Stormy Daniels and the hush money because, well, great men are allowed to have affairs. They've done it throughout history, etc. But crossing that line into pedophilia, that's something that all of the Christo fascists are going to immediately turn against him on.
That's right.
And they vilified Epstein, rightfully so, but they vilified Epstein with the intent of laying it at the doorstep of a bunch of Democrats.
Yeah.
And guys that they don't like. The rich and the powerful and all the rest of it, thinking that it would be to their benefit.
Yeah.
And now that it turns out that actually their own guy may have been, we all know he probably, was.
Oh yeah.
Involved in all of this. They've set a trap for themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's hilarious when you look at it that way. It's their own doing.
And I honestly think this is a whole wag the dog thing. We're going to go to war with Venezuela, maybe not declare war, maybe not attacking Venezuelan government per se, but we'll be striking targets in Venezuela. We'll be sending troops ashore to go attack, the narco terrorists and everything, purely to keep the issue of Epstein out of the news.
So the United States is amassing troops, so this looks probably very probable thing to happen. Also, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, even more than Saudi. So to get a hold of that before China or anybody else, United States, of course, needs to come in and...
There are two issues associated with Venezuelan oil. One, it's some of the worst quality crude that there is. So cracking it into usable gasoline or what have you is much more expensive.
And it's also mostly the wrong kind for American refineries, isn't it, Commander?
Exactly. The second issue is that if you do something in Venezuela and it causes problems and interrupts the flow of their oil into the market, what's that going to do to oil prices? Oil prices will go up. Who does that help?
Big business.
Russia. Not so much big business. It helps the Russians. Depressed oil prices globally have meant their revenues from all the smuggling and the shadow oil fleet and everything else, that's not been as profitable as they've been hoping it would be. But if you cause international oil prices to spike, then their oil that's being smuggled out becomes commensurately of more value.
In Venezuela, the oil production industry completely collapsed.
Yep.
It's like mismanaged. It's non-existent, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Russia has a lot to do with this.
No, couldn't possibly.
Definitely.
Gremlins, space aliens. Let me go find my tinfoil hat.
Yeah. I got a shout out to throw in here because we got a direct PayPal donation in. And it's YOLO Swaggins in the chat there. Keep up the good work, Shill. Slava Ukraine from YOLO Swaggins. Huge shout, YOLO. $35 direct donation in. So thank you very much. Into the Ukraine pile it shall go. And yeah, I think I'm caught up.
I have a shout out to Sanya Baklanov. Sent 5 Slavy Gift memberships. So thank you so much. And I'm happy to get channel members as always. We have a lot of fun in the membership. So thank you so much for giving those out.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, looking at the time here, we should get ourselves into wrap-ups. Do you want to steer the room for us there, Slavy?
Absolutely. Why don't we start? Phil, any final thoughts?
No, it's just always a pleasure to come and chat. If you haven't seen last week's episode of On the Edge, go take a look with Anton Timoshenko, a stand-up comedian, probably the most known stand-up comic in Ukraine. A fascinating conversation. Tomorrow, we'll be publishing our next episode if the power and electricity gods stay with us, and that'll be with an American based in London who is heading up aid missions into Ukraine, and what motivates her and how she does it, and not only what she does when she brings stuff here to Ukraine, but also when she goes back to the US and the UK and brings the things that she learns here to audiences and people who will listen back stateside. So another good conversation. And again, if we have good internet, it'll be out at 8 p.m. Kiev time, which I think is noon Eastern. I want to say 9 a.m. Don't hold me to it. 8 p.m. Kiev time. So tune in.
Absolutely. We will for sure. And I hope you get the DJ that you were talking about. That should be
yes.
interesting.
Definitely want to try and get her.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because EDM is the fastest growing music genre, and it's a huge untapped market of supporters. And I'm very excited about that. Johnny, any final thoughts for the finale?
Great show today. I loved being with you guys. I needed this therapy. Also to my not so numerous subscribers to my channel, we have a new batch of street interviews. The first of which a Trump supporter is already on the channel. Go check it out. Good show.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being here. Commander Macmillan, any final thoughts?
No, I think that as we alluded at the last minute here with that final, keep on with Venezuela. That may turn out to be a much bigger story than we're anticipating. And secondly, closing out every show like I usually do, urging everybody, please continue to correspond with your elected officials. Email them, write letters, telephones, text, what have you. It does have an impact, even if it's a deep red MAGA idiot that is your elected official. Communicating with them does have an impact. Do not discount
Absolutely. It's very important that you call, because it's a numbers game right now. It's not about convincing anyone. You just need to call to have the numbers to support Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you. And on my channel, there's going to be a new episode coming on Monday, hopefully. So look out for that. I'm working really hard on getting these videos out to you weekly. So I really hope you guys watch it. And as Russian drones and missiles fall on kindergartens, as Europe bans toilets and Ukraine burns refineries to the ground, as Trump finally blinks and sanctions the gas giants fueling the Russian war machine, we're left with one question. How many lines must Russia cross before the world draws one back? What are we waiting for? This war won't be won by hope alone. It'll be won by pressure, by action, by the fire of free and civilized nations who refuse to give their freedom away. To the panel, thank you for bringing the heat today. Very interesting conversations. To the crew behind the scenes, thank you for keeping the show running. To our incredible mods on all the channels across every channel, we see you and you guys are rock stars. To every viewer, every member, every voice standing with us, you are part of Ukraine's resistance. You keep these channels alive. You help fight the Russian lies, and without you, there is silence, and silence is complicity. So please don't stop. Like the streams, share it, comment, subscribe whenever you see pro-Ukrainian content. Support all the channels that we're streaming on. This is bigger than content. This is the front line of information warfare. And on that note, God bless America. May we find the courage to do what's right. Be fierce, be brave like Ukraine, and Slava Ukraine.
Heroam Slava.
Slava.
See you soon, everybody.